Machiavellian power structure, military-industrial complex that seeks to completely subvert your own personal will, your own individual autonomy, your own sovereignty. And it's shown very clearly in our history that it has that desire, and it's very close to its end, completing its end game with the transhumanism agenda, with the cyborg revolution, which they want to have done by 23, the 11th hour. And it's very late, and I'm sorry that I'm waiting till now to, get so intense and passionate and obviously involved and directly addressing this, but I'm doing it now. And I will have a clear conscience. And I will not be ashamed to be drinking this because it's in a plastic bottle with a carbon footprint. I will not walk around being ashamed that I'm for taking care of myself and not drinking polluted, sickened water. The body is made of water, for crying out loud. Don't drink fluoridated water. If you don't want to be dumbed down, don't drink their water. Yeah, you gotta take showers, right? But that's a lot less direct than putting it in your frickin' down your throat. Word control is mind control, because we think in words. This is why there's been so much corruption of our language, our angelish English language, which we better take back right here and now. We're going to go to the word, see this B, and the alliterate, it's in C, understanding the esoteric structure of the alphabet that opens the box of Jack, who's Jacob, of the 12, the patriarch, who sees God face to face in the pineal gland, in the mid-L, between the two, in the C enter, within himself. The ladder he climbs is a figure of speech for the spine of the spirit that takes you up into the house of the temples, into the upper chamber, into the third eye, the one eye, opening up, and the pineal gland pituitary system all opening up, and you having infinite thought instead of limited thought. Instead of dense, dumbed down, dormant thought, you have manifested, activated thought, holy thought, whole, integrated thought. The part in the mythological narrative always of the hero having to wrestle with, for Jacob it's an angel or a beast or an animal. It's the lower nature below the belt of oneself. It's nothing outside here. None of it's outside. It's all an inner process. It's all an inner alchemy or an inner chemistry of Kemet, of ancient Egypt, of the earth. Egypt, the earth symbolically in the Bible. The valley that you must liberate your mind from in order to be in the upper position with the will, having accessed the will and coming up into care of the heart, the feeling, the care, the concern for the other and for oneself, and for the benefit and the joy and the responsibility, recognizing your responsibility to yourself and to your environment or your Mother Earth. See, this is all kept in balance by the conscious ego in the body. And if this ego consciousness is not transcended its limitations and is not identifying with cosmos, it's not identifying with the greater, with the universal, with all, in addition to itself, it's half and it's one-sided and it's violent. And it's always me versus you. It's always a fight, it's always a conflict. And it's a conflict with oneself, because one's always denying one's upper and having to always follow the herd and the animal lower. And one's always flat. One's always dormant. One's always wearing the flat cap of the flatheads, of 2D, of being limited by the group. See, this is the thing with the moral compass and morality, you see, because the morality of the herd is actually no morality at all. It's the mob. The morality has to be based on something higher, a higher power, not necessarily a dominant, controlling, manipulative power as personified by the old Torah, Old Testament, Yahweh, Jehovah God. No, but by the love that lifts you, by compassion and empathy, by having remorse for seeing the suffering of others and your remorse for your own suffering, knowing what suffering is, the counterpart, the normal counterpart to happiness, and having a feeling for that, having a feeling for one and a care for others' happiness, but not trying to make them happy, allowing them, giving them the space to be happy. Happiness happens. You can't make people happy. You can't manipulate a feeling of joy and wonder and saying, oh wow, that I'm being acknowledged for my humanity. You can't manipulate that. You have to allow it to happen. It's like harvesting. It's like growing anything. You can't force a tree to grow. You have to allow it to. You have to give it its own space. You have to have respect. This is what respect is. It's not fear of disapproval or punishment. Respect is honoring the space between us and loving that, and not seeking to dominate and remove that space, but allowing it. And this is what the power structure has no sense of, has no boundaries. It has no decency in it. It's a monster of money. It's a ruling power that is destroying everything. It's symbolized in film and in our mythological narratives of Hollywood cinema, of our stories being told, the mythologies projected onto the wall of Plato's cave by the villains. All of these villains that we have always facing the hero. Well, that's the power structure. It's Darth Vader. It's the faceless bureaucratic empire that has that has an inner central esoteric spiderweb control grid system that protects itself, and that walls and walls and walls of guards around it that keeps all of anybody from ever being able to confront it and face it, and alienates everyone from themselves, from the earth. There's no real accountability to what's happening. It's this faceless villain. It's the Smith in the Matrix, the Sith, Star Wars, Smith, Sith, the Six. It's this beast of control that's behind the AI agenda, behind giving a machine automaton, automatic mind control. It's turning us into automatons, taking away our will. That's the devil in this world. It's each and every one of us that has that in ourselves, our egos adapted to that and adjusted to this monster in our midst, and accepting it and never addressing it and never facing it, and hence living inauthentic lives, never getting the authentic. Because in order to get into authentic, you have to acknowledge reality and what's actually happening. And you have to fearlessly face it, or, face it with fear, but courageously face it. Courage is being afraid and still doing something, still responding appropriately. I'm terrified. I am very much afraid of what's happening and the control that it means, the absolute power of this darkness that's engulfing everything, with behind the weather control, he who controls the weather controls the world, behind the U.S. empire, behind this possible World War III Iran standoff scenario. It's fucking terrifying, but I'm still saying something, and I'm saying it's not okay to just sit back and take all of the abuse, the criminal injustice, the criminal abuse, and believe that criminals could bring us justice, and the real balance and equilibrium of Libra could ever come from the system or the power structure, because it's the lack of justice, it's the lack of the sacred feminine that equalizes everything in the middle, and that holds everything in place with integrity of the integer, of the whole number, of holiness, of health and balance, by, like I said, allowing the space between the Mars and Venus male and female, holding the tension of the opposites here, and not living by combat and trying to overtake one over the other. Bureaucracy. Let's go to this word. Bureaucrat. What do we mean when we're saying these things? Because It's this. The beginning of it is bureau, B-U-R-E-A-U, bureaucrat. It's a compound word of bureau plus crat. We'll go to the dictionary and then we'll go to the. Now we won't go to Etym Online with this. We'll just go to the because there's the etymology of it is actually for bureau is here. If you want to understand one word, you got to look to the related words around it, alphabetical order, and also understand the alliteration involved with the letters. B is at the beginning with A. A is the zero, the void of the no thing, and the first thing is B and the dot of the beginning. Inception, conception, the concept, ion, I-O. 1 and 0, and then M and N, bellow in the middle, with L, L-M-N, the light in the middle, the lighthouse. When the eye is single, the body is filled with light. Matthew 6:22. Bureau, a chest of drawers. Chest, as in treasure chest, where the heart is. Where care is, where Trinity is, the heart of the city, the Tri-City, the city of how many gates? 9, which is 3 threes. Elec Tri-City. This torso structure again is 3 based of Trinity in the heart, Neo in the navel and the solar plexus, Trinity in the arms and the lungs, Gemini the twins, and that's the care, that's the will, and the intelligence of Morpheus, of God, of the Taurus cerebellum and the Aries cerebrum, of the cherubim, of the angels. Chest, a chest of drawers, a dresser, a bureau, B-U-Row, R-E-A-U, row, ra, re. 2, an executive branch or office of a government or business. Business bureau. Better Business Bureau. Busyness. Bureau etymology here now. This little block. These are little etymological blocks. This word has weaved its way from a color, dark brown, to a cloth of that color, to the use of that cloth in covering a desk, to the desk itself. This word has weaved its way from a color, dark brown, to a cloth of that color, 3 cc, to the use of that cloth in covering a desk, to the desk itself. Bureaucracy. Bureaucracy. Cracy, that is the word-forming element in democracy, which means rule. And it's just like crazy, except a C and it changes to a Z, because rule is crazy. Government is crazy, because it's denying you of your own mental power and your own ability to live your own life and decide how you live it, what you put in your body, what you grow, and how you behave and what you think. That's you. Government had never had any right at all, or any responsibility to any of that. It has a responsibility to merely to protect your right to have that, to have your own mind, if anything. That's why we had a limited government set up here, but still government, when you get down to it, is always an invasive, violent phenomenon, and needs to be addressed as such once and for all, or our goose is cooked. Bureaucracy is control. Bureaucracy. It's having your heart put in a cage. It's having your mind put in a cage. It's being living by shame and fear basis. Always having to have the approval of the group and of the owners and of the administrators, and being afraid of what's above you all the time. Being preyed upon, being picked off, having overlords, rulers, 12-inch rulers. Bureaucracy, the body of administrators in a government, especially an executive concentration, a concentration of such administrators. Administrators. Look at that. Control, to control. Or that's that's really all you need here, but let's keep going. Control or great influence in government by minor officials. Officials. So that's bureaucracy, crazy bureau. Bureaucrat is noun, a job holder in a bureaucracy. A job holder in a power structure, okay, in a control system. A servant and a slave, Neo. Sorry, I meant to bring a particular book with me, and maybe I did, and I just haven't looked in the right place. Yes, my humor, my goofy side has been absent in this one largely, right? Because it's appropriate. There's a time and a place. Right now, what's called for is, I would be irresponsible if I went off and, went to nightclubs and got all wacky or based my life on trying to feed into the entertainment distraction hoopla going on, because we're at the 11th hour, and yeah, maybe I could effectively get across a revolutionary message in a stand-up comedy routine like Bill Hicks did, and that's something that I'm not closed to. I'm not closing myself anymore to any possibilities here, what scenarios other than ones that involve harming and violating others. But as far as the possibilities for transformation and for winning this war on consciousness by centering and coming from the heart in humanity, by standing for humanity, because that's what the end game is all about now. It's about humanity versus machines, or just blind bureaucratic oligarchic rule, criminal corporate rule of everything, and the complete end of human freedom and the human being altogether, and the transhuman being, which is not a human, which is an artificial intelligence-controlled droid of consumption, a unit of economics on a computer screen in a 2D information virtual prison, in a matrix, in a Plato's cave. You've been warned, okay? And we're at that point now where it's do or die. It's stand and deliver, stand in your humanity, and insist upon humanity, insist upon on not being perceived and regarded as an economic unit, as any kind of title, worldly title and name, but as that which precedes all worldly titles and names. The silence which is solidified. And before I go to the appendix of Philip K. Dick's Valis, which is the basis of Lost, and the basis of based on the Matrix. So the Matrix is Valis. Valis is based on PKD, Philip K. Dick's vision of 2374, and his experiences of illumination and vision, which made him caused him to be perceived as mentally unstable by the system, of course, by the power structure, which is all about marginalizing people who get any kind of information or insight from anything beyond their official sources, right? This is vast active living intelligence system. Watch Philip K. Dick's interview, where the video someone put out, which has him being interviewed, giving an address. And it says the video is titled "Philip K. Dick Discloses the Matrix." He did that. He was doing that at the end of the 70s in this book. The Man Who Fell to Earth is a part of this synchromistic epic of this horse lover fat synchrosphere. And guess what? So am I. Because I'm at 506. I'm in the freaking belly of it, okay? No one can tell me I'm not Neo, that I'm not the will. No one can tell me that I'm not Trinity. No one can tell me that I'm not Morpheus. I know it now. You try to tell me I'm not, try to tell me I'm not, this solidified silence, this essence that's one with everything, the Father, the light of the world, then, you can tell me all you want, but you're not gonna affect my knowing of that I am one with that I am that. This fight is winnable, okay? That's what needs to be integrated and understood. And there needs to be an intensity and a commitment to winning it. There needs to be a courage. It needs to be an internalization of oneself, every single one who's on this trajectory of getting it, of winning, of not losing hope and not getting depressed and despaired just because it looks hopeless. That's the point at which you recognize that, oh shit, I'm Dorothy, I'm Neo, I'm Alice in Wonderland, I'm every hero ever. I'm that archetype now. And I either reject that, go into cognitive dissonance, and continue to play victim, continue to insist that there's nothing I can do, or I say, okay, fine, so be it. I'm Dorothy, I'm Neo, I'm the fucking hero now, and what do I do from here? Take it from here. What do we do from here now? Where does this lead? And because look at what happens in all the hero stories, right? The confrontations and the fights with that which is resisting and holding you from expansion of your consciousness. We have a bona fide 100% verifiable villain to confront all of us. And it's within us and without us. The Battle of Armageddon within, it's the program that we're powerless and that we're victims and that we have to just accept bureaucratic control, faceless, monolithic bureaucratic control. Some questions can be answered in silence. Silence is the goal of all answers. I read this once before, but I'm reading it again as part of this Summer Summary Addendum. Or this one's going to be called Summer Summary Appendix. Some questions can only be answered in silence. Silence is the goal of all answers. If an answer does not silence the mind, it is no answer. Thoughts are not... So before I continue with that, the sign that we're going to now into, as today is the moon phases of 2019. Today is June. The moon was full on Monday, full moon's day on Moon's Day, Monday. We're now waning, going dark gradually, and the summer solstice is Friday, tomorrow, 21st at 11:54. And it's in the AM just before high noon. We will have the summer solstice on Venus Day, Friday, which is Frau in Norse, North version of Venus, or Ishtar, or Aphrodite, or Hathor, the cow that jumped over the moon, the sea crescent of Christ, the cow, moon, mother, and the bull, son, father, the paravels, the parables of the lights of life here in this valley of the shadow of Shaddai, of the infinite H above and below, heaven and hell, head and heel. Today, Thor's Day, the 20th. So where this summer solstice is, summer is the summit. It's the summary of the year. It's the sun's peak. It's the sun's journey, in the sun's journey, which is a serpentine sine wave, which forms a figure 8 in 3D. 2D, it's a serpentine sine wave, which used to be depicted on all atlases on the equator ecliptic with the tropics of Cancer and Capricorn. The sun hits the Tropic of Cancer in the apparent path plane of the sun's trajectory, and the Earth rotating, turning on its axis, A6, basics of 3D, 3 doors of length, height, and depth, width, all around 360. The third D of the 3D is beyond the 2D representation or copy of Plato's cave wall allegory, of illusion, of tricks, 3D movies, right? So the question is here at 6, the quest ion, when you're in the valley of the shadow of death, of Capricorn, of the sun's symbolic death at the Tropic of Capricorn, of the winter solstice. And the answer is Cancer. See the answer at the summit, at the peak of the crab of Christ, the crab that goes side to side. See Truth Heresies, why Cancer is Cancer, where he goes into the etymology and why, and the picture, and the visually shows you in his videos. Look into his work is awesome. It really is, because he was getting at years ago what the specific core of all of what we're facing is, which is not a conspiracy but a truth heresy, and how this information control is the end game, mind control, 1984, tactic of manipulating us through and coercing us through words, through spells, through spelling, and through limiting and prohibiting free speech, restrictions, endless restrictions on speech, on opinions, on beliefs, and claiming that it's for your benefit and for your good. Thoughts are not the goal in themselves. Their goal is silence. When you ask the question, who am I? You get no answer. There is only silence. That is the real answer. Your soul is solidified silence, and this solidified silence is wisdom, knowledge, the tree of knowledge. The easy way to silence thoughts is to arouse feelings, for only through feelings will peace, joy, and love dawn. They are all your very nature. Your very nature is peace, joy, and love. That's what the Guru says. He doesn't say your nature is animal and violent and manipulative and competitive and based on fear and shame and trauma and guilt and shadow material. Because guess what? The Guru doesn't shame the shadow. The Guru allows the shadow. The Guru allows all. And the Guru is unlimited and not bound by word control and spells, and has feeling of empathy and love, is that feeling. It does not need to manipulate and coerce, does not look at other human beings as customers or as any of the other inherently divisive and derisive titles and roles of serving the system. The Guru regards you as you are. The soul, the one, the essence preceding all other outer roles and forms. And in that way, the Guru does you justice, does not do you a disservice. The Guru does not tell you who you are. The Guru allows you to find it for yourself and knows that's the only way you could authentically ever come to who you really are. To the question, who am I? The only relevant answer is silence. You need to discard all answers in words, including, I am nothing, or I am the cosmic self, or I am the self. Just remain with the question, who am I? All other answers are just thoughts, and thoughts can never be complete. Only silence is complete. Instead of going to the appendix, which is the exegesis of Philip K. Dick, which starts with, well, I'll just do this first page, okay, of the appendix. And then what we're going to do is something that most, in the majority, that the herd would still see as impossible, but once you free your mind, you realize is not only possible, but actually is likely and the most reasonable thing to conclude or to perceive. That God talks, that God is, and you behold God. So, and we're going to do divination. We're going to turn so-called at random in Valis, Vast Active Living Intelligence System by Philip K. Dick. And we're going to get, first we'll read what it is. We'll read what it is here, what Valis is. After I read to you the appendix, Jack has his appendix removed in Lost, right? Jack is Jacob, the character of nature. He's the green man, Jack in the Green, and he's Jack-o'-lantern in the autumn. When he's going down to his dark time, you have to turn the lights on. He's the lantern, the Noel time of no light, of the cave, of shadows. He's Jack-o'-lantern of Halloween, scary, spooky, right? Jack, the Pumpkinhead, and Peter Pumpkinhead of Jack Kennedy, of November, of the Sag of Taurus, of the Death Ember of December, of November, October, and September, the embers of the 7 Ember, September through the 10 Ember, of the 1 and the O. Then Jack and Jack Frost in the Winter Quarter, of the kneecaps of Capricorn, the shins of Aquarius, and the feet of Pisces, of the lower heel of Hell, below of the ascendant half of the year. The winter is in the ascendant, the summer is in the descendant. Even though, you know, the shortest day is here, this is the low point. It's in the season of winter is when the sun's coming back, arising to Aries, resurrected. And the summer is when he's dying. He begins his death, his decline. Symbolic, just like your death is purely symbolic, not literal. There is no literal death. There's no literal end. This is ongoing. Soul is not theoretical. Tractates, Cryptica, Scriptura. Soul is who you are, what you are. Psyche, soul, and soma, body. And neither, which is the mystery, same as God. An intelligible sphere whose center is everywhere, but whose outer edge is nowhere. Tractates, Cryptica, Scriptura. One mind there is, but under it 2 principles contend. The red and the blue, the black and the white. The mind, or the left and the right sides of the truncated pyramid of Horus, the god of dual relations, of dualism, of the 2 birds, of the 2 wings, of the donkey and elephant, the Democrat and Republican controlled by the eye in the sky of power, of central power, and greater centralization of power, until the point of complete lockdown, prison society, for the convenience of this club. No more chance of revolutions and revolts in a complete virtual reality prison matrix world. Logan's Run. Tractates, Cryptica, Scriptura. One mind there is, but under it 2 principles contend. The mind lets in the light, then the dark in interaction. So time is generated. At the end, mind awards victory to the light. Time ceases, and the mind is complete. 3. He causes things to appear different, so it would appear time has passed. 4. Matter is plastic in the face of mind. 5. One by one he draws us out of the world. The lighthouse, Jacob, the ladder, out of 6. And into go back to 9 and back to 3 and then to 12. 1, 2, 3. Electricity. One by one he draws us out of the world. 5. 6. The empire never ended. 7. The head Apollo is about to return. Saint Sophia is going to be born again. She was not acceptable before. The Buddha is in the park. Siddhartha sleeps but is going to awaken. The time you have waited for has come. Now let's read. Then this is dedication of this book, which was published in 1981, Philip K. Dick, to Russell Galen, G-A-L-E-N, Galen, to Russ L. Galen, who showed me the right way. Valis. Valis, acronym of Vast Living Intelligence System, from an American film. A perturbation in the reality field in which a spontaneously self-monitoring negentropic, in which a spontaneous self-monitoring negentropic or negentropic, negentropic vortex, a negentropic vortex is formed, tending progressively to subsume and incorporate its environment into arrangements of information, characterized by quasi-consciousness, purpose, intelligence, growth, and an armillary coherence. Great Soviet Dictionary, 6th edition, 1992. And this was written and published in 1981. And this here is from 1992. Work of fiction, yes, but... So, we paid... Here's the page. I just went to it. 156 to 157. This number has been utterly synchronistic since for me personally, in my recognition and awakening, 157 Calle Ojo Feliz in Santa Fe, where I lived. The first condo apartment we rented when I moved there with Kelly and Kyle in 2006, where we were till 2009. I lived in a hobbit house when we split up, and the drama of the relationships and all of the lessons from that about power and about consciousness and about how damaging it is to see oneself as in a relationship. The dualism and the conflict inherent in that, because it's restrictive. It's giving a title and a limitation of a specific kind of ship, a relationship, instead of a unity that I recognize that the I in me is the same as the I in you ultimately, even though we have our differences and variations, which should be honored and respected. Again, honoring the space between us, the healthy sense of boundary. See, this is the thing, that when you look into recovery and, self-help stuff and like John Bradshaw, you see that all of this stuff with the inner child and, recovery and emotion, addiction, and all of it is connected to power, which is why, and powerlessness and all of it. Really, and the abused inner child manifests as an adult with no boundaries, an unhealed, unreconciled, wounded inner child. And this is what we got this rampant, because the power structure based education system, the state education system, and all private education systems are all based on breaking the child, breaking its will, and reducing it to an approval seeking unit of economics, and a persona, living from a social persona and a tiny fraction of one's actual capacity and self, one's true self, by being a false self, by being yoked and joined to a paper cutout 2D straw man of legal corporate fiction and friction. So page 157, we'll begin with... Actually, we'll go from 156 into 157, so it'll make the beginning of 157 will make sense. Agitatedly, the officer says, "Something went wrong, Mr. President." Now, this part here is from Philip K. Dick watching the fictional version of The Man Who Fell to Earth. He fictionalized his experience of seeing the film The Man Who Fell to Earth, starring David Bowie in 1976. Because he recognized subliminal information in that film which connected and related to his vision of 2 years prior on 2/3/74. This is all the raw material of the show Lost, which is the raw material and basis of The Matrix, which is the raw material of countless stories, and because it all goes back to Plato's cave. Every story is Plato's cave, ultimately. See True Theorises, Freedom documentary with Professor True Theorisy. Agitatedly, the officer says, "Something went wrong, Mr. President. The satellite is still..." Voice drowned out by crowd noises. Crowds, and remember the satellite is Valis. Crowd senses something is, or Valis, V-A-L-I-S. Crowd senses something is wrong. The well-dressed people have metamorphosed to the girl cheerleaders in red, white, and blue identical uniforms. They stand motionless like robots unplugged. Final scene. Vast cheering crowd. Ferris Fremont back to camera. And Ferris Fremont is the fictional version of Dick's own nemesis and Richard Nixon. Ferris Fremont Richard Nixon back to camera, making Nixon-type V for victory signs. Victory, Nike, just do it. With both hands, as he would, right? I'm not a crook! Obviously, he has won re-election. Brief shots of black-clad armed men standing at attention, pleased. General joy. Some kid holds flowers to Mrs. Fremont. She turns to accept them. Ferris Fremont turns too. Zoom in. Zoom in. Brady's face. Nicholas Brady. On the drive home, back down Tustin Avenue. Remember, where is the box factory that John Locke works at in Lost? It's in Tustin. And this is the avenue, Tustin Avenue, where Philip K. Dick, or the fictional version, Horse Lover Fat, sees Man Who Fell to Earth, or Velas on the big screen in 1976. On the drive home back down Tustin Avenue, Kevin said, after a period of mutual silence among the three of us, remember, he's in a group of three, always. You saw the pink light. Yes, Fat said, or Horse Lover Fat, Philip K. Dick. And the lateral lens third eye, Kevin said. Mother Goose wrote the screenplay, I asked. Mother Goose wrote the screenplay, I asked. Mother Goose is David Bowie's fictional name in this. Wrote the screenplay, directed it, and starred in it. Fat said, did he ever do a film before? No, Kevin said. There was information transfer, I said. In the film, Kevin said, as storyline, or do you mean from the film and audio track to the audience? You have to see, to understand all of this too, the synchromistic, synchrosphere epic of Horse Lover Fat. Also see the film made based on Radio Free Albemuth, which is part of this Velas series, made a few years ago, Radio Free Albemuth, starring who as the musician? Yep, Alanis Morissette. Thank you, India. Or do you mean from the film and audio track to the audience? Because the Thank You, India I mentioned then, because that's connected to all of the synchromistic epic with the film The Way, which my father watched endlessly, repeatedly after, and started watching it without having known that I had seen it at the movie theater 2 months before in Beverly at Cabot Street. I'm not sure I understand, I began. There is subliminal material in that film, Kevin said. The next time I see it, I'm taking a battery-powered cassette tape recorder in with me. I think the information is encoded in Meanie's synchronicity music, his random music. There's no quotes in random there, but it was an alternate USA, Fat said. Remember, Philip K. Dick wrote The Man in the High Castle about the alternate USA, where instead of Nixon being president, Ferris Fremont was, I guess. Were Eric and Linda Lampton human or not, I said. First they appeared human, or Eric Lampton is David Bowie, and his wife Linda Lampton. Were Eric and Linda, and Mother Goose is the name of his band. Were Eric and Linda Lampton human or not, I said. First they appeared human. Then she turned out not to have any, sex organs. And then they stripped those membranes off and they did have sex organs. We're on page 158 now of Velas. But when his head exploded, Fat said, it was full of computer parts. Did you notice the pot, Kevin said, on Nicholas Brady's desk? The little clay pot, like the one you have, the pot that girl, Stephanie, Fat said, made for you? No, Fat said, I didn't notice it. There were a lot of details in the film that kept coming at me so fast. At the audience, so fast, I mean. I didn't notice the pot for the first time. I didn't notice the pot the first time, Kevin said. It shows up in different places, not just on Brady's desk, but one time in President Fremont's office, way over in the corner where only your peripheral vision picks it up. It shows up in different parts of the Lambton's house. For example, in the living room, and in that one scene where Eric Lambton is staggering around, he knocks against things, and the pitcher, I said. See that Back to the Future predicts 9/11 and the whole series of films that Barely Human 11 did, showing all of this one-eye occult or hidden subliminal synchrosphere symbolism in Back to the Future, in that trilogy. And the symbol is synchronistic, subliminal synchrosphere symbolism in The Matrix with the all over the place, but especially with the checkerboard and all of it, the dualism of the Masons, but also, of course, the appearance of 91101 on Neo's passport expiration in the first film when the Smiths confront him for the first time, and he's subjected to the Gestapo crap, and his mouth is made to shut so he can't say anything, meaning his freedom of speech has been taken away, his right to speak. What good is a phone call if you cannot speak? Mr. Anderson. Mr. Andrewson. Andrew is andro, as in anthro, of anthropology, which is man. Anderson is son of man. Neo